why doesn't ING Bank tell you this? Why doesn't Rabo tell you this? And whatever the other Dutch banks are, right? Because this methodology I just described to you has little or no fees. I'm going to repeat myself. Little or no fees. There's no investment banking fee. There's no management fee. There's no succession fee. Because you're using commercial debt. And that's why they don't tell you.
But then, is it still that easy as it was 20 years ago?
Yes.
You go to the
It's
bank.
easier now because there's more money on the street.
But you go to the bank and you say then, I want to have your money.
Well, no. You don't. You borrow. You're going to borrow the money. Just like you did.
Yeah, but that was 20 years ago, other time. And what I did what he told me, and I didn't know better. So I went in, ING Bank, I asked for $500,000 and went out with the money. Because you told me you're not going to leave without the money.
You don't leave without the money, or a check, or a wire transfer. You sit there and until they're embarrassed. You go in when the fucking bank opens up, 9 o'clock you open, 10, and you don't leave the goddamn place until you got money in your pocket. I mean, literally. Now, see, most of you wouldn't do that because you'd be embarrassed.
And it's still that it's better to go to a new bank?
Oh, yeah.
Now, new office?
When a new ING branch opens up in wherever, okay, there's 3 things that you know for sure. Number 1, they've done a lot of marketing surveys that they need a branch there. Number 2, the bank branch has a lot of money, ING Bank. And number 3, they have no customers. That new branch does not have one customer when it opens up the first day on a Monday morning. Except for you, because you're going to be the first one in the door. I used to go around in my limousine. I'd go from branch to branch to branch. Boss, wake up, we're here. And I go through the same bullshit, the same pitch, which are all on my site free. And I wouldn't leave without it. And we give you a script. What is your legal lending limit? What's your personal lending limit? The bank officer. You probably don't even know, if you've ever dealt with a bank, what the legal lending limit of the bank is. You probably don't even know what the banker's legal lending limit. And the banker will say, well, I can sign for $50,000. You personally can sign for $50,000. What a lucky day for the 2 of us. All I need is $49,500. What a lucky fucking day. And we have kids doing this in the Netherlands today.
So even since all the rules in the financial system has changed, you say it's still easy.
And the reason why it's easier, because from 20 years ago, there's probably 100 times more cash trying to get out of the bank doors into our pockets now than when you did it 20 years ago. For every dollar, for every euro you put in a bank, they lend out between 20 and 40 euros for every euro you put in, depending on the structure, depending on the balance sheet of the bank. So for every 1,000 euros you deposit, they can lend out between 20,000 and 40,000 euros. And when I was here teaching in the late 90s, I had a speech. It was called Holland is Not Heaven. And I was a member of the Amstel Club. I'm getting up and making a speech, and Mr. Heineken stood up and said, Mr. Pena, I don't mean to be rude or interrupt you, but could you speak about something else? And I said, well, Mr. Heineken, but why? He says, we all know that, but the Dutch don't like to face up to the truth. Can we talk about something else that's happier for us? And so then the then chairman of ING Bank stood up and said, well, Mr. Pena, let's talk about prostitution. We all understand that. And so, and I didn't know much about prostitution, at least the way it is legalized here. And so I talked to another 10 or 15 minutes, and then we retired to the bar and we had drinks. But now the difference is there's so much more money. And from when you did it, the interest rates are probably 1/5 as high as they were when you took the money from the bank.
Why commercial debt and no private equity or venture capital?
Because when you take private equity and venture capital, they're going to want the lion's share of the ownership of the business. The famous story is when Steve Jobs and Wozniak started Apple, they got an investment of $91,000 from a guy named Marcellus. He took a third of the equity, and Wozniak and Jobs took a third each. Now, that 90,000, they take 90% and leave 10% to the founders or the owners. But it's too easy. It's too easy. And when you know that the banks, 75% of all bank loans on the planet are made the last 90 days of the calendar year. I'm going to say it again. 75% of all bank loans made in the world are made the last 90 days of the year. Why? Because they want to get the money out the door so they can pay Christmas bonuses. Now that's a pretty shitty reason. But if the bankers were fucking smart, they wouldn't be fucking bankers, would they? I'm going to say it again slow because you're Dutch. 75% of all money loans in the entire world are made the last 90 days of the calendar year. For that very reason.
So back to the beginning. You find a motivated seller.
Amen.
Or more. Is everyone motivated? Because
No.
sometimes you want to buy another business. And he's not motivated, and you want to have it.
Well, then, you can do a joint venture. A joint venture by accounting standards is a 50-50. Joint ventures are not 80-20 or 70-30, they're 50-50. Because he may not be motivated today, but let's say he's only 57 and he wants to retire when he's 65. You buy 50% of his business, you're his 50% partner for the next 6 or 7 years, and then you buy the next 50% at the end of that 6 or 7 years. But 9 times out of 10, they won't last till they're 65. When they see that they've turned over the reins, so to speak, and they've turned over the leadership, and they've turned over the controls, and you really know what you're doing, then they'll probably last 2 or 3 years and they'll run out. But nobody wants to, unless you're having sex, nobody wants to die in the saddle. I mean, you don't. You want to die and go to where you live in the sun and sail your boat around. And so it's not that hard. But they're not going to call you. So if you're waiting for the motivated sellers to knock on your door, which most of you will, not just this group, any group I speak before, they're not going to knock on your door. Just that doesn't happen.
What are the tough times in the QLA process with the mentees you've had in the past 25 years? What are the common mistakes?
Common mistakes is they skip the steps. We list the 7 steps on the site. They go from step 1 to you've got an uncle who's a lawyer, you've got a cousin who's a banker, and you've got a brother-in-law who's an accountant. Almost everybody in this room has somebody they know that's either a banker, an accountant, and or a lawyer, right? And you go to them. This system is based on doing business with people you don't know. Why don't you want to know them? Because familiarity breeds contempt. Familiarity breeds contempt. Because now you're happy slappy, you're going out to lunch, you're going out to dinner, your kids are taking tennis lessons together, and now it's hard for you to end the business relationship when it doesn't make sense for you anymore. These are new, fresh faces that you found on LinkedIn. Now, for those of you, some of you went to a school that is worth talking about. Your alumni associations. Some of you are parts of professions, accountants, lawyers, doctors, etc., that have national associations. But LinkedIn is the easiest, the fastest, and there's a premier LinkedIn. I think it costs 100 euros a month. Use the premier LinkedIn, where you're not limited to how many people you can contact. And it's
That's the dream team.
For the dream team, for your accountants, and for your lawyers, for everybody. All your professional associations can be derived on LinkedIn. It's a great tool. I wish that I had invested in it when it came out 15 years ago. It's just a terrific tool because by definition, everybody that is on there is looking to do some sort of business. And a lot of times they fudge and they say they're interested in charitable associations. They're interested in pro bono, meaning for free. That's not necessarily true. They're there to try to make money. They're there to try to make money. And all this stuff is on my site in my audio version, which I don't see why everybody doesn't listen to it, spells it out, other than it's in my voice, and I scream sometimes in the audio version. Other than that, I've had people call the office and say they pissed themselves because I yelled at them during, and Kim will say, Mr. Pena wasn't in Bulgaria, how could he yell at you? He says, well, he yelled at the audio, on the audio book. Are you kidding me? Jesus.